بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا اللهم زدنا علما إنك أنت عليم الحكيم اللهم اجعل هذه المحاضرة حجة لنا لا حجة علينا يا رب العالمين أما بعد. This is our third class, inshallah, going over the book Zaad Al-Mustaqni with Imam Abu Musa Al-Hajjawi, rahimahullah ta'ala. We stopped last week the last issue we covered was the issue dealing with Al-Kafa'a. Is there any Al-Kafa'a? Is there any question with regards to that? Anything that we covered last week? Right. So today, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to cover, before we read the text, we're going to come up with we're going to summarize the talk or the lecture today, or the class today. We're going to summarize it with some of the key elements so that everyone can understand it. And then we're going to read through the text and inshallah ta'ala explain it as best we can. Today's class is on Al-Muharramat fil Nikah. Al-Muharramat fil Nikah. Al-Muharramat, it means the things that are, or the people that are impermissible for a Muslim, for a man to marry. And then inside of that, there are a lot of different issues that we're going to discuss. But before we get into the detailed issues, we're going to talk about this issue, Al-Muharramat fil Nikah. Does anyone have any idea what that could possibly mean? Anyone?
The haram things in marriage?
We're talking about people you can't marry.
People you can't
Right.
Oh, like the
Right. So, Al-Muharramat, I need you guys to pay attention because it's broken down into two categories. So if you got a pen, a piece of paper, write it down. We're going to give you a diagram, if you will. We should have had like some type of board or something, but we don't have that. We're going to give you a diagram mentally, so if you can write it down, it'll help you remember what they are. So, Al-Muharramat fil Nikah yanqasim ila qismain. That it breaks down in two categories. Muharramat, meaning the people that are impermissible to marry, they're broken down into two categories. How many categories? Two categories. The first category is called ala abad. Ala abad, it means forever. You can never marry this person. And the second category is ala amad. Ala amad, it means you can't marry them for a time period, but it's possible that you can marry them later. Is that clear?
What's the second one again?
Ala amad. Hamza, mim, dal, amada. From mudda, from the time, right? So we have Al-Muharramat fil Nikah yanqasim ila qismain, meaning it's broken down into two categories. The first category is ala abad, which means that you can never ever marry these people. And then the second category is ala amad, which means that you won't be able to marry them for a select time period. Are we clear on that? So now we're going to go back to ala abad, the people you can never marry. This section is broken down into four categories. It's broken down into how many categories? Four. And of these women, they equal out to be 18. The number goes up to, rather 19. There are 19 people that fit into this category. How many? 19 people. Anyone outside of those 19 people is permissible for you to marry. And we're going to mention who these 19 people are, inshallah ta'ala. Tayyib. And then once we mention them, we're going to go and talk about it briefly. Then we're going to read through the book so that we can follow along that way. But before we get started, we just need to have a general understanding of what we're talking about. So, we said that muharramat, the women that are haram to marry, they're broken down into two categories. The first one is ala abad, which means forever. And the second category is ala amad, which means for a select time period. When we go back to ala abad, which means never, you can never marry these people, this section here is also broken down into how many categories? 4. It's broken down to 4 categories. We're going to name the different categories right now. The first one is al-muharram bil-nasab, people that are impermissible for you to marry based on lineage. People that are impermissible for you to marry based on lineage. Al-muharram bin-nasab. Bin-nasab. Nasab here, it means lineage, family relations. The second one is al-rada'a. Al-rada'a, it means breastfed family members. And this too, so the both of these, the one with the lineage and the one through breastfeeding, they're 7 apiece. That equals out to be how much? How many? 14. Each one of them is 7 apiece. For those two, it's going to be what? 14. The third category is bil musahara. Bil musahara. Al musahara is a group of people that you are related to by way of marriage. By way of marriage. And there are 4. There are how many? 4. If you're going to write this down, just leave them blank and we're going to fill them in as we go back. And then the fourth category, which is only one, this is a mula'ana. Mula'ana, the people that curse one another. We're going to talk about that too. So altogether that equals how many? 19. Show me how it's 19.
7, 7, 4, and 1.
7, 7, 4, and 1. Good. Al-muharramat fi nikah is broken down in how many categories? 2. What are the 2 categories? Al-abad, what does that mean? People you can never marry forever. Right. What's the other category? Al-amad. What's the second category? Al-amad. What does that mean? A select period. Good. When we go back to al-abad, which means forever, it's broken down to how many categories? 4. What's the first one? Nasab. How many is that? 7. What's the second one? Huh? Rada'a, breastfed. Right? Right. What's the third one? Bil musahara. What does that mean? Through contract. In-laws. Right? And then the fourth one is what?
Curse one another.
Curse one another. We're going to talk about that. Right. So altogether that equals how many? 19. Right. So let's go back to al-muharramat ala abad, meaning the people that are haram for you to marry forever. The first category is through nasab, lineage. There are 7 women, 7 groups of women, and we're going to discuss them. The first one is obvious. Who's the first woman in this group? Your mothers. Right. It says ummahataha, ummahat, the mothers. What mother? It's from your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, on up. You can never ever what? Marry these people. Obviously, for some people, this is common sense, but it still needs to be clear and understood. It needs to be clear and understood the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains this to us in Surah An-Nisa, who all these women are. The second one, after your mother, la. What's after the mothers? Your dad? No, your
Grandma?
your shit. When we say mothers, it goes mothers, all the mothers, meaning your mother, your grandma, your great grandma, all the mothers, you cannot marry them. What's number 2?
Grandmother.
Yeah, come on.
Your daughter?
Your daughters. So you go for your mother. You cannot marry your mothers. You cannot marry your what?
Grandmothers.
Your daughters. And your daughter's daughters. And your daughter's daughter's daughters. And your son's daughters. And so on and so forth. These are all your what? Your granddaughters. You cannot marry them. Ever. Wadah? So the first one is the mothers on up and daughters on down. Right. The next one is also, we'll get to that when we finish. The next one is, so after your mothers and your daughters, who else do we have? Before your aunts. Your sisters. You cannot marry your sisters. We mentioned last week there are 3 types of sisters that a person may have. What are they? Your sister through what? Mother and father, and then who else? Father and who else? And you do mother. So we have 3. Today we're going to add a 4th sister to that. We're going to add a 4th one today. Inshallah. Bye. The next one, so right now we have the mothers, the daughters, the sisters, and then the next one is Banat al-Akh, meaning the children of your brothers, meaning the daughters of your brother. Someone said, well, why are you making a distinction between the daughters of your brother versus the daughter of your sister? This is the way Islam does it. It's called Banat al-Akh or Banat al-Ukht, meaning the daughters of my brother. These are your nieces. It is haram for you to marry them on down. Your nieces' daughters, your nieces' daughters' daughters, your nieces' daughters, or your nephew's daughters, your nephew's daughters' daughters, and so on and so forth. Well, and likewise, Banat al-Ukht, and the daughters of your sisters, and so on and so forth, on down. So far, how many do we have? 5. The next one, what's after the sisters? Your aunts. Islam also makes a distinction between the maternal aunts and the paternal aunts. The paternal aunts are called ammat or amma. Amma. So, your father's sisters are haram for you to marry, and their sisters, etc., etc. It's impermissible for you to marry your father's sisters. Likewise, it's impermissible for you to marry your mother's sisters, the khalat. They're called khalat. These are maternal aunts. Paternal aunts are called amma, ammat in Arabic, and the maternal aunts are called khalat. At any event, those are 7. How many is that? 7. From those 7, now we're going to move to the next category. Any questions about that? Fine, simple. The next category is called through breastfeeding. The next category is through what? Breastfeeding. Right. An-Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam, he said, يَحْرُمُ مِنَ الرَّضَاعَ مَا يَحْرُمُ مِنَ النَّسَبِ. An-Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam, he said, that which is impermissible through lineage, likewise is impermissible through what? Breastfeeding. What does that mean? Your mother through breastfeeding. First of all, does anyone even know what breastfeeding means in Islam? What is that? What's the significance of it? What is breastfeeding?
Feeding a child.
Huh?
Feeding a child.
Feeding a child?
When she's pregnant.
So a woman that feeds a child when she's pregnant is breastfeeding?
Yeah, after she has the baby, she feeds the baby.
With what?
Her breast, her nipple. Give it out milk.
With her milk.
Yeah.
All right. So that milk is called breast milk, right? Easy. Like duh, right? All right. That breast milk belongs to the father of that child. Huh? Without there being a father, there would be no what? No breast milk. breast milk just don't come just because you just, hey, I want breast milk, and it just shows up, right? So if a woman's pregnant, then she will what? Develop what? Breast milk. Right. So here's a scenario. You have a sister who has a child. And for example, I'm going to use you for an example. And your wife has a child. Your wife is unable to breastfeed for whatever reason, right? You know another sister, your wife knows another sister that is breastfeeding her children. You say, listen, can your wife tell the brother, look, can your wife breastfeed my son or daughter? They agree. There's a certain amount of times that she has to breastfeed in order for that breastfeeding mother to be considered your child's mother as well. Yes. Is that clear? So let's say, once again, your wife has a child. You and your wife have a son or a daughter. And your son, your wife is not able to breastfeed, but you want your child breastfed. You know another sister and a husband, and they breastfeed their children. You can say to your wife can say to the sister, do you mind breastfeeding my son or my daughter? If she agrees, and I think she does it a certain amount of time, we're going to talk about it in detail when we get to that chapter. Once that happens, once they reach a certain number of times, then that sister and her husband become the breastfeeding mother and father to your son. Understand that? So that means her mother and her mother's mother becomes haram for your son. Right? Her daughters becomes haram for your son, because now they're all brothers and sisters. This is just your son, though, not you. Her son. Then after that, her sisters, all of them become haram for them like this. All right? And this is why the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, يَحْرُمُ مِنَ الرَّضَاءَ مَا يَحْرُمُ مِنَ النَّسَبِ. That which becomes haram by way of breastfeeding, likewise is haram by way of what? Lineage. Like, the only difference between a brother and sister in breastfeeding and other than breastfeeding, meaning through lineage, is that the breastfeeding brother and sister cannot inherit. Cannot what? Cannot inherit from you. Other than that, the family tie is the family tie. Okay? So it's possible for a brother to have two mothers. A mother through lineage and a mother through breastfeeding. Yes?
Isn't there another term for a woman who breastfeeds another person's child called a foster something?
I don't know what it's called in English. I know in Arabic it's called a murdi'ah. In English, perhaps it could be called that. I don't know.
Wet nurse.
A wet nurse? Perhaps. Fine. So now we how many groups did we mention so far?
Two.
Nah. 14. 14. Any questions on that so far? No questions? Fine. Let's move to the third group. What's the third group? So how many groups did we say it was?
4.
It was 4. How many groups did we mention so far? 2. What are the 2 groups? Lineage and breastfeeding. Fine. The third group is called Al-Musahara. Al-Musahara. What does that mean? Through contracts. Through marital contracts. And this group consists of how many people? 4. This group consists of 4 types of women that are haram for you to marry forever. Right? And we're going to talk about this when we get to the text. But right now, I just want everyone to understand, in other words, get a general idea of what's going on. So when we go to the text, it's easier to understand the issues. The first one, Zawja, your wife's mother. She becomes haram for you forever. Your wife's what? Mother. Like, Bint Zawja, your wife's daughter, becomes haram for you forever. And we're going to clarify some of this stuff a little later. But she becomes haram for you for what? Forever. Like, Zawjatul ab, your father's wife, becomes haram for you forever. We're not talking about your mother, we're talking about your father's wife. Is it possible for your father to have a wife that's not your mother? Is that possible? Yes, it's possible. In this case, that woman becomes haram for you forever. Wazawjatul ibn, your son has a wife. Your son's wife becomes haram for you forever. Are we clear on this? How many is that altogether? That altogether? 18. Oh, yeah. The last one is al-mula'in. Al-mula'ana. Al-mula'in is a man who catches his wife. In theory, is a man who catches his wife. And I'm mentioning this as an example to understand what this is. A man catches his wife, either he did or he didn't, but he claims that he caught his wife cheating on him with another man. Right? What does that look like? Huh? I mean, not detail. I'm saying,
His wife stepping out of her marriage.
yes, his wife stepped out on him, but he caught them in the act. He caught them in the act. What is he to do in this situation?
Kill him for murder.
He said, kill them both. We're not condoning murder here. It's not what we do. You call the police. Huh? Call the cops. Thank you. Give the gym. So listen, if you catch the person, in this case, here's a scenario. The brother, he sees his wife with another man. Now he knows in Islam you need 4 witnesses. There's no way he can gather up 4 people right now because you have to see it. You have to be able to describe in detail what you see. So that means that people are undercovers, that's not sufficient. That's not sufficient in Islam to serve as a witness. If it's 4 people that saw a man and a woman undercovers, whatever they were doing, moving or not, that's still not sufficient. That's not sufficient as a witness. Is that clear? Does everyone understand? Is that very clear or partially clear? All right. So he has options. If he goes to, now mind you, we're assuming this is in an Islamic court, an Islamic society, Islamic law, if you will. He complains to the authorities or the people that are in charge of their affairs. My wife cheated on me with another man. Right. If he does not have 4 witnesses, what happens to that husband? Does anyone know? He gets lashed. He gets beat. In Islam, that husband will what? He will get beat. If he claims that his wife cheated on him, but he has no evidence to support it. And vice versa. And vice versa. Fine. He know what he saw. What's his option? What does he do? He can make mula'ana. Mula'ana is when a person swears by Allah in front of a judge. They swear by Allah that their wife cheated on them, and if he's lying, may the curse of Allah be upon him. And likewise, the woman will do the same thing. If they do this, if they both do this, then they are separated ala abad. Means they can never ever get married again. They can never ever be with each other ever again. But they are separated from that. This is called al-mula'ana. That is the 19th one. Is that clear? Fine. So now we're gonna read through the text, inshallah. Before we get Before we go to the text, does anyone have any questions? No questions. Like, قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى تحرم على أبد الأم وكل جد وإن علت. All this is just a review of everything that we just covered, but there's a little more detail to it. The Shaykh rahimahullah, he says, it is haram forever any woman that is a mother to you, wa kullu jaddatin, and grandmothers, wa in alat, going up. Likewise, al-bintu wal-bintul ibn wa bintahuma min halalin wa haramin in safalat. Now it's saying that your daughter and your daughters, or the son, or your son's daughter, whether it's your daughter from halal means or haram. Whether your daughter that you have is from halal means through a nikah or through a sifah, meaning either through marriage or through fornication, she is still haram for you to marry. وَكُلُّ أُخْتٍ وَبِنْتُهَا, and your sisters and your sisters' daughters, وَبِنْتُ إِبْنِهَا, and the daughters of her brother, or the daughters of the daughter, وَبِنْتُ كُلِّ أَخٍ, and the daughters of all your brothers, وَبِنْتُهَا وَبِنْتُ إِبْنِهِ وَبِنْتُهَا, and all of the daughters that come down from that lineage. Everything that we just covered, right? Then the second part, it says, وَكُلُّ عَمَّةٍ, and every aunt, وَخَالَةٍ, and every aunt from your mother's side and aunt from your father's side, وَإِنْ عَلَتَ, as it goes up, and then it says, وَالْمَلَاعَنَةُ عَلَى الْمُلَاعِنِ, and the one that curses the other one. And then it says, وَيَحْرَمُ مِنَ بِالرَّضَاعَةِ مَا يَحْرَمُ بِالنَّسَبِ. All right. That which is haram through lineage is likewise haram through breastfeeding, except. I need you guys to write this part down, except for two. The first one is ukhtihi min al-rada'a. Like, how do I explain this? Let's say, for example, a brother, like, we mentioned before that the brother and his wife, or rather, his son was breastfed by another woman, right? Like, well, let's say your wife breastfed another sister's son. Your wife breastfed what? Another sister's son. Your family to that boy, to that child, your family is his family. Your family is his family. But his family is not your family. Is that clear? No, good. I didn't think it would be. All right. Right now, there's a sister. She has a son. She gives it to the brother here and his wife. I'm just using him as a sample, as a, what do you call it? Example. I'm using him as an example. You give your son to him. His wife breastfeeds your son. Okay? As his wife breastfeeds your son enough times, now he becomes the father of your son through breastfeeding. Likewise, his wife becomes the mother of your son through breastfeeding. All of his family becomes family to your son. All of his family becomes family to your son. You have your son also has a sister. Huh? And he also has another son that's a brother to him through breastfeeding. Are we together on this? His brother, so his son has a brother that is your son, And that's his brother because of breastfeeding, right? Are you with me? Because I need you to understand this part here. Because, all right. He has another child. And he also has a wife, right? His other child is no relation to your wife and to your daughters. His only relation to you is through your son.
That was the breastfeeding. No.
That was confusing.
It's confusing.
Yes.
I know.
Not confused. Hold on.
Let me.
What you're saying is if he drinks my wife's milk,
He's a part of your family.
but I can still marry all his people.
Yes,
His mother, his sister.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Say exactly what he said.
Oh, say what he said.
Yeah.
All right. So, but you need to understand the picture. What's going on here? We have a child that needs to be breastfed, right?
Not these days.
Well,
We understand what you mean.
a parent wants their child breastfed, right? So you take your child to this brother right here. His wife breastfeeds your child. His wife breastfeeds your child. We're going to say Muhammad's wife breastfeeds Abdullah's son. Muhammad's wife breastfeeds Abdullah's son. Right? Right. Now Abdullah's son is now family to all of Muhammad. So Muhammad's wife is his mother. Muhammad's other kids are all his siblings. Muhammad's grandmother, they're all his families now. All of them. The same thing does not apply to the rest of his siblings that you have.
Right.
So that means if he has another son, his son can marry his brother's sister through radar.
Right.
Is that clear? Through breastfeeding.
Yeah.
So then the text it says, Illa ukhtihi. So now, his sister through rada'a, her brother can marry him on the other side because there's no connection here. There's no connection. I hope that makes sense. So then, the breastfeeding child, the child that breastfeeds, he becomes family to the woman who breastfed him. But that woman's children do not become family to his other family. You understand? She does not, meaning the rest of his family does not become family to the other children, his other siblings on the other side. On the father, whoever side of family that is. Again, the child breastfeeds with this brother's wife. He now is almost like he's adopted into that family. All of them. Just him though. No one else. Just him.
Not his other brother.
Not his other brothers and sisters. No, we're not talking about foster. That's something totally different in Islam. Foster care is something different. Foster care in Islam is something called al-laqit. Al-laqit is children that don't have mothers and fathers, but it takes a totally different route. We're talking about through breastfeeding, right? Are we clear on this?
The lineage is only attached to the one who drank the milk. Nobody
There you go. The lineage is attached to the one who drank the milk. I like that. I'm gonna use that. I just talked for 10 minutes trying to explain it. And I could have just said that. Jazakallah khair. All right. Are we clear on this? All right, let's move to the next part. وَيَحْرَمُ بِالْعَقِدِ زَوْجَةَ أَبِيهِ وَزَوْجَةَ كُلِّ جَدٍّ وَزَوْجَةَ ابْنِهِ وَإِنْ نَزَلَ. Right. Now we're going to talk about, because now this issue here is a sensitive issue that I don't believe many brothers and sisters are aware of. The first part is pretty simple. When you get married to a sister, any sister, you marry her, when you get married to a sister, or you have a son and your father gets married to a sister, your father's wife becomes haram for him, and her family become haram for him, meaning the mother, etc., etc. وَزَوْجَةَ ابْنِهِ, likewise the wife of your son becomes haram. All right? Duna banatihinna, except for the stepchildren. So let's clarify this. Let's say, for example, this brother, I gotta keep using for example because I'm looking at you. Sorry. This brother here gets married to a sister. Before he gets married to this sister, he has children. He has children. He has sons. He has 3 sons. The brother has how many sons? 3 sons. He's getting married to a sister. The sister has 3 daughters. They have what? 3 daughters. Can he marry her? Can his children marry his wife's daughters? You said no. I'm asking the brothers here. You say yes. Allah, wow. That's a problem. You have children. You have sons. Right? You get married to a sister. She has daughters. Can your sons marry your wife's daughters? You say no. Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. My children.
Your children.
Once we marry.
Mm-hmm. Once you're married, no, listen. Once they're married, can his sons marry his wife's daughters? You say no. You say no. You say yes. You say yes. You don't know. You say no. I'm gonna give you a picture. Right now, Muhammad, keep using. Muhammad wants to marry Fatima, right? Or Zaid wants to marry, whatever, Aisha. Muhammad and Fatima. We're going to use Muhammad and Fatima as an example. Muhammad was married before, he got a divorce, but Muhammad has 3 sons he's taking care of. 3 sons. They're all past the age of puberty, 14, 15, 16, etc. He's looking to get married. He finds a sister, Fatima. You know, they seem compatible. He's interested. Fatima has 3 daughters. Well, she has 1 daughter. She has 1 daughter. Her daughter is also 15 years old, past the age of puberty. They talk about moving in with each other, etc., etc. Her daughter, Fatima's daughter, can she marry your sons? Can she marry Muhammad's sons after they get married? You say yes. All right, ask Larson about this. Huh? You say yes? You say yes. What do you say? What about you? Is there any you say no? What about you? You say you don't know. You say yes. Huh? Sisters, what do y'all think, sisters? They know they can't get married. Number 6. Oh, okay, she's looking at the list. Huh? You say no. You say no. Ya ikhwan wa akhwat. Brothers and sisters, Muhammad's son can marry Fatima's daughters. It is not permissible for them to be around each other and they're not covered. It's haram. The problem in our society is that this issue here has not been covered that I know of. There should be no reason why there are Muslim men here that are married and they don't know the answer to this issue right here. There's no excuse for that. None.
Do the same rule apply if the brother got 2 wives, like they got separate kids, like he got a kid from one and a kid from the other?
Are they his kids?
Yeah.
So his children cannot get married to each other. They're siblings. The issue is his wife's children.
Isn't this the hikmah of giving the children to the father? If she gives the daughters to the father, then they won't have that problem. If she's able, let me say it like that. If she's able.
That's not happening, brother.
Just say biological versus birth. Okay, sure, Carl. Thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you saying, Shay?
I said the hikmah in that situation would be for her to get them daughters to the father if she's able.
I mean, so listen. Give the daughters to the father. Yes, it makes sense. Yes, but is that the reality? It's not the reality. Listen. I can give you in theory the way it should look, but the reality is something different. And this is one of the issues with us. When you study Islam, we study Islam through textbooks, through kalam of the salaf, ahadith, etc. Right? Once you understand it, now it's for you to see how it fits in your society. How does that fit? And when you see it don't fit, you have to make it known. For example, if a brother is getting married to a sister, it's important to know if her children, if she has children of the opposite sex, the same age as your children. It's not going to work. You have a 15-year-old girl living in a house with your 16-year-old son. Many Jews have it. I'm not saying many Jews that they can't live there. I'm saying it's not, it's a problem because she's not going to want to walk around the house in hijab all day. I can hear a pin drop in here.
Because I'm stuck.
No.
I'm trying
That's because in our society, in this society, we look at that as our sister.
What does Islam look at it as?
I know, I'm just
Right, I get it.
So
The point is, if brothers in general understood this premise, then perhaps they would have made different decisions. If sisters would have understood that premise, perhaps they would have made different decisions. Or they would have talked about it. Or it would be something on deck that said, listen, our children are young now, but when they get older, this is going to be an issue. How are we going to deal with that? At least they already know that it's going to be an issue, so they're working towards that, as opposed to being oblivious to it. There's a difference. There's a difference. Like, any questions about that? Fadli, Sheikh.
I'm a little confused because I want to know, okay, I got children, I got sons, married to a woman, and she has a daughter, like you said, right? Now, you saying they can get married, right? I mean, what Islam saying? They can
So I'm saying all those list of people that we mentioned, your son and your wife's daughter was not included in that. If you say they're brother and sister, the response to you, we gave you the connection how they could be brother and sister. That wasn't one of them. Huh?
Lineage and breastfeeding.
Lineage and breastfeeding.
Okay, now.
Well, they?
Yeah.
Like, so now somebody gonna say, well, what do we do? Because this is my situation. What am I gonna do, brother? Like you, it's a conversation that gotta be had. I mean, obviously, the easy thing is but we talking about real people and real situations. What do? You sit the kids down and have a conversation. You figure out a way to make it work now. At least now you having knowledge of the situation is better than not having knowledge of it when it's something that's impermissible. Well, there. If it's possible, it might not be possible. But at least the conversation can be had right now to figure out a remedy. To figure out a workable remedy to keep the family together without split, but at least understand the issues that are on the table. And all of this should take place prior to getting married. That way everyone is informed of what's going on. Brothers and sisters, Islam is not a game. It's very serious. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "La tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun." Do not die unless that we're in a state of al-Islam. And the state of al-Islam doesn't mean by name. Islam, deen al-amal, is a religion of actions. You can say all the catchphrases all you want. Make everybody believe you the most righteous brother or sister it is. The reality, the proof is always in the pudding. Stick the fork in it. So, having said that, I'm sure that this is the issue with a lot of people, and they just don't know because they weren't told, they weren't educated, they weren't taught what they were supposed to know with regards to marriage and these types of affairs because it's serious. It's serious. But the next one. وَبِنْتُهَا وَبَنَاتَ أَوْلَادِهَا. Same thing. This all goes back to the next issue. And the next issue here, let's say, for example, there's a brother, I'm going to give an age. Let's say we have a brother that's about 40 years old. How old? 40 years old. He wants to marry his sisters. 2 women he's looking at for marriage. One of them is 45, and the other one is 25. He's 40, right? Like, he reads about the one sister, he's interested in the one sister, and he's interested in the other one. He doesn't know which way to go. He finds out that the one that's 45, the one that's 25, that's her daughter. That's her what?
Daughter.
It's her daughter. Make sense? Like, so there's a qaida, there's a principle in Islam as it relates to a man considering marrying a mother versus a daughter. القاعدة تقول العقد على البنات يحرم أمهات. Let's say, for example, the brother, he approaches the 25-year-old, he wants to marry her. She's like, all right, let's do it. So they do the contract. He doesn't consummate the marriage. He does the contract. After he does the contract, he realizes the other sister, which is 45, that's the mother. And he's like, dang, I should have married the mother. I shouldn't have married the daughter. So now he wants to divorce the daughter. Mind you, he didn't consummate the marriage with the daughter. And he says, I want to divorce the daughter so I can marry the mother. This is haram. This is what? Haram. The principle, I need you to pay careful attention to this principle. The qaida is, al-aqdu ala al-banat yuharrimu al-ummahat. The contract that you sign with the mother, with the daughter, makes the mother impermissible for you, even if you don't even touch the daughter. Is that clear? Fine. Now let's reverse the story. He marries the mother, or he does the contract with the mother. And then once he does the contract with the mother, he sees the daughter, it's like, man, I should have married her daughter. He didn't consummate with the mother, right? As long as he did not consummate with the mother, he can separate that contract with the mother and go marry the daughter. Is that clear? There's 2 different principles. All right, the principle is like this. Al-aqdu ala al-banat yuharrimu al-ummahat. If you do a mere contract with the daughter, makes the mother what? Impermissible. However, a mere contract with the mother doesn't make the daughter impermissible unless you what? Unless you consummate. Well then. Once you consummate, then she becomes muharram ala abad, forever. How long have you been talking? How long is it? We didn't even get into the ala emet. Because all of this and everything we just covered are women that you can't marry forever. And everything we talked about today was about the women that you can't marry forever. We didn't get into the subject of the ones that you can not marry for a select period of time. I guess we'll cover that, inshallah. Lebens. Now we're going to move into the next part. We got time. You know why I'm kicking us out? Like, the next part. Okay. Like, class. We're going to stop with that, inshallah. We'll stop with that, inshallah. Because it's a lot to process, right? And then when we come to the next part, because the object is not just throwing a bunch of information, you get your brain all clouded, and, we'll come back next week, inshallah, let everything digest, because I'm sure there's going to be some questions, especially dealing with the stepchildren. This is very important. I think that if this is your situation, you need to have a conversation about it. How do we move forward? How do we remedy that situation so that we can what? We can be right with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the whole purpose. To make sure our situation is right with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. No questions, huh? Oh, you got a question? Fine.
So your aunts, daughters, and your uncle's daughters are permissible, right?
Yes, they're your cousins.
Your first cousins.
Your first cousins, and second cousins, and third, they're all permissible for you to marry. The first cousins and second cousins and third cousins, they're all permissible to marry. Right. Any other questions, Aquan? Sisters, any questions?
So next week you're going to elaborate.
I'm sorry? Oh, they're coming up.
So you want to elaborate next week what you just explained, what you just ended with?
What's that?
As far as the contract with the daughter, 25-year-old mother, 25-year-old daughter, that you can marry.
Do you need me to elaborate on it?
Yeah,
We can do it now.
No, it's up to you. If you got
So what's the question? What's your
So basically, the principle was the contract?
Yeah. So the qaida. What is the principle? The qaida taqul al-aqdu ala al-banat. Meaning, if you have a contract with the daughter, you do the contract with her, right? You marry her, but you don't touch her. You don't touch her, right? All right. The mere fact that you have a contract with the daughter makes the mother impermissible.
Forever.
Yes, you can't. That's it. But even if you do the contract, oh man, I messed up. I shouldn't have married her. Right? You want to back out. Even if you back out, the mother is what? Haram for you.
Forever.
Forever. This whole thing we're talking about here is everything is forever. Let's switch now. Now we're talking about the daughter or the mother. You have a contract with the mother for marriage. You do the contract and you see the daughter, you say, I want to marry the daughter. You can get out of the contract with the mom and go marry the daughter. As long as you did not what? Consummate. When we studied this in school, some of the mashayikh, they said, هذا رفق بالبنت. Said this shows leniency and gentleness to the daughter. Meaning, if the husband that she signed a contract saw her mother's haram for him anyway, forever. Meanwhile, if the man wanted to marry the mother and then saw the daughter, then the daughter could benefit from that, and the mother, mom would find somebody else. Yeah, it's a lot of detail. Yeah, tons. I mean, I didn't do the research on this, but it's tons of hadith and aqwal of the salaf that deal. That is a lot.
Question?
Sorry. So there's a question about stepchildren. This has to be a conversation. It's not something. It says, inshallah, could we talk about stepchildren, the position of the wife and the husband, children, wife versus children, mother, when the children live with the father and the new wife. Yeah, it's a long conversation. It's not just a, you know what I mean? It's not a, I mean, just, I guess, how to live together. How is that? Meaning the children live with the father, and the father has another wife, and then children's mother. I understand what she's trying to say.
I can see if it was a mother
Well, she the new
with a
wife.
new man in the house.
Well, she the new wife, and he got his kid.
Say that again?
He got the kids. She gave the ex-wife gave him the kids. And she moved in. I guess she went.
Like, do the wife cover in front of the husband's son? La. The wife does not have to cover in front of her husband's son. She's from what category? From Abadan. There are 4 groups. Which group is it? La. It's 3 groups. It was 4 groups we mentioned. The thing is, see, here's the benefit. When we study Islam, right? The reason why scholars break things down into categories, so that when you have a question like this, you automatically know where to put it. Boom, it falls into this category, it falls into that category. So if a person was in class and they listened to this, they would know the answer because it was mentioned in the class. So, for example, the question is, do the wife cover in front of her husband's son? If you can't, if this haram for this person to ever marry you, that means what? You can cover. He serves as a mahram. Right? Like, what's this? It's a book. Like, this sister probably gotta talk to us later. It's not something we do. Whoever sent the question about their marital situation, this is not something we could do on a class night. We probably want to talk after class or make an appointment with the brother. Make an appointment with the brother right here. And he can help with that, inshallah. At least give some advice. This one. Huh? Right. And the person that sent the question that came from out of town, inshallah, we can meet with you after class, inshallah. Any other questions? Right. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.